Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of Bears on Tap. It sounds really weird saying that. I never introduced Bears on Tap episodes, so that's very strange. You've probably heard my voice before if you're familiar with On Tap Sportsnet. I am Ron Luce, joined tonight by Joey Ricotta. No, this is not Cubs on Tap. This is Bears on Tap. We sincerely promise. We're here to talk about a pretty big trade today that the Bears made to kind of cap off the trade deadline. But before we get into it, my friend, Mr. Ricotta, it's been a while since you and I have been on a microphone. How have you been, my friend? Oh, and we already lost him, son of a bitch. Technology is a real pain in the ass, ladies and gentlemen, so hopefully we'll get Joey back here in just a minute. But folks, we are here to talk about a big trade. Yes, that's right. The Chicago Bears made a move not to trade somebody away like they did with the Robert Quinn and the Roquan Smith trades. No. Instead, they brought in a player. Yes, they traded for a receiver. It was Chase Claypool coming to the Chicago Bears. Comes for a second-round pick. A lot of controversy on what that second-round pick was going to be today. Initially, it was supposed to be the Bears pick that they got from the Baltimore Ravens for Roquan Smith. And then there were reports that it was the Bears' own pick rather than the pick from the Roquan Smith trade. And a lot of Bears fans were all up in arms. And why would you give away your own pick that's inevitably going to be higher in the draft than the Baltimore Ravens pick? But there was a little bit of lesser known information that came out behind the scenes. And that was the fact that supposedly, if you believe everything you read, that the Chicago Bears were in a bidding war with the Green Bay Packers for Claypool's services. Packers offered a second-round pick as well, according to a report from Tom Silverstein, but elected to go with the Bears pick because they believe the Bears pick is going to be higher. In this case, it actually worked out for the Bears to have worse trajectory over the course of the rest of the regular season, and that's what happened in this trade. Hopefully, we'll get Joey back here in a little bit. He's been having some tech issues all night as we've been gearing up for the show. Again, hopefully we get him back sooner rather than later. Nonetheless, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Chase Claypool deal because this one's a big one. Obviously, came out the gate hot with the Pittsburgh Steelers as a rookie in 2020. Played in all 16 games, technically only started 6, but still 62 catches as a rookie, 873 yards, had an 84-yard absolute nuke of a catch, and 9 touchdowns as a rookie. Hell of a season for Claypool coming out the gate here, taking just a couple of picks after Mr. Cole Kmet was taken by the Chicago Bears in that draft. And he followed it up with a solid 2021 season. Maybe it's really weird. A lot of people were like, "Oh, he was so much worse in 21 than he was in 20." Not really, if you look at the numbers, folks. He played in 15 games, started 13 of them, had only 3 less catches for about 13 less yards. Touchdowns were down. I think that's where a lot of people were like, "Wow, he had a worse year." Only 2 touchdowns last year compared to the 9 as a rookie. But otherwise, his numbers look pretty similar and actually less games played. So that's certainly something worth noting. And this year, he's projectable to be in about the same area. 8 games all started for the Steelers before the trade, 32 catches, 311 yards, and only 1 touchdown. And I'll tell you what, folks, I like this trade. And I know a lot of people are like, why would you give up a second-round pick for Chase Claypool? Why would you do that? Why would you give up a second-round pick for a receiver that isn't elite? Why would you do that? Folks, he's 24 years old for starters, right? He's young. He's the same age as the Khalil Herberts on this team and your Darnell Mooney's and your Justin Fields and he's in that group, right? He's young. Chase Claypool brings a whole nother dimension to the Chicago Bears offense. For starters, I saw a tweet earlier today. I'm actually going to work on trying to pull it up here in a second because I want to give credit where it's properly due. It's actually not too far up here in this little thing that I have up. It's at already taken _20. He goes by RIP Papa G on Twitter. He says, y'all don't understand how Chase Claypool just unlocked Darnell Mooney. And I think that's a big thing a lot of people are forgetting. You now have a legitimate receiving threat on the other side of Darnell Mooney. It is no longer Darnell Mooney and the Funky Bunch for the Chicago Bears. It really isn't. That's what it's been all season long. Let's just call a spade a spade. You ask any other NFL fan around the league, who are the Chicago Bears wide receivers, they're going to laugh at you and say Darnell Mooney and a bunch of dickheads I've never heard of. partially to an extent, they're not wrong. It's a lot of guys who were either out of the league or were just depth receivers in other places, guys that needed a change of scenery, right? We talk about the N'Keal Harry trade. We talk about, the Dante Pettis signing, Equanimous St. Brown coming over from Green Bay. None of these were flashy names that the Bears stocked around Justin Fields. They were banking on the Justin Fields to Cole Kmet / Darnell Mooney connection coming into the season. And we've seen a little bit more of it in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Fields' best 2 games have been these last 2 weeks against New England and Dallas. But now you give him a guy that, A, is amongst the top in the league when it comes to running go routes since he entered the league. And Justin Fields is in the top 7 quarterbacks since 2021 who like throwing the ball deep. I'm going to pull up the stat here. This is from Next Gen Stats on Twitter. It says Chase Claypool brings a field stretching element to the Bears offense. They're not wrong. Having run the 5th most go routes. And for those at home that maybe are like, what's a go route? Go route, just run straight ahead. It's a deep ball, deep bomb. 380 of them since entering the NFL in 2020. Justin Fields has targeted the go route on 11% of his attempts in his career. That's the 8th highest rate since 2021. So he is a top 10 quarterback in terms of throwing the ball deep. And we've seen it. We've seen the praise for Justin Fields' deep ball, and we've seen him have the ability to throw it. Now you give him a guy who's 6'4" and over 200 pounds and runs a 4.40. Yeah. That's the Bears investing in Justin Fields. That's what we like to see. That's, I think, what we want to see as Chicago Bears fans, because let's be frank about the last 2 trades, right? I wasn't on either one of the shows when it happened, so just giving quick 2 cents here. Robert Quinn was not a part of the future plans, was having a very down year this year. He's owed a lot. He was owed a lot of money. The Bears said, we'll cut our ties, we'll get a draft pick for him, and we'll keep it moving. Roquan Smith, probably the same way. Yes, he's having statistically a good season, but when you turn the tape on, there's a lot of plays where you go, oof, that's an off-ball linebacker that wanted $20 million a year. Maybe not. Maybe he's not the right fit. Not saying Roquan Smith's not a good football player, because Roquan Smith is absolutely a good football player. But Roquan Smith, for what the Bears want to do, is not the right move. And so they went ahead and they moved on from those guys. They did the right thing. And because of that 2nd-round pick that they got in the Roquan deal, you're able to make a trade like this at the deadline. And let's bring it back into the Claypool conversation here, because it's so weird, the reactions on Twitter. I'm actually baffled, because in my own little private circles of friends and family and people I talk to about sports, I said the best move for the Bears to improve around Justin Fields was going to have to come via trade. The receiving market, if you go on like Spot Track or anything like that for next season for the 2023 receiving class, it's very underwhelming. Like Christian Kirk would arguably be the best receiver coming out of that class. And it's not a shot at Christian Kirk. It's just showing that Christian Kirk got paid what A.J. Brown and what Stephon Diggs and some of these other elite receivers are also making now. Do you really want the Bears to go waste some of their $130 million in cap space on an average receiver that got overpaid? No. Chase Claypool's still on his rookie deal for the 2023 season. By bringing him in now, you give him additional time to work with Justin Fields, get that chemistry down. And again, you add such a different element now to this offense. Sure, I know Claypool hasn't been a 1,000-yard receiver entering his 3rd season here in 2022. I know, but he was also competing for a lot of targets in Pittsburgh, right? Even this season. And then the last few years, Deontay Johnson was there. You obviously had George Pickens there now as a rookie this year. Or when we got him coming back here, and I'll finish my rant in just a second. We'll add him back. But, they have so many pieces that Claypool was competing with. I think he's going to be a good fit in Chicago, because now he kind of is the number 1 guy. And I'm going to bring my guy back in here. Mr. Ricotta, we missed you. I went on a little bit of a tangent while you were dealing with the tech problems. Hopefully we can keep things going here. But Joey, just to catch you up here really quick, my man, when you were, getting things squared away. I love this trade. That was what I really kind of started off saying, is I love this trade for a multitude of reasons. I talked about some next gen stats, how Claypool is a top 5 receiver for running go routes. We know Justin Fields' love for throwing the deep ball. And I'm actually going to take something that I haven't added yet, but I want to kind of transition this then back to you and let you give your thoughts on the trade too, my friend. We talked about Faz scores quite a bit here at Bears on Tap during the draft special, right? Quentin is the numbers guru and genius behind this podcast. That man can spit out numbers better than just about anybody I know. Like he makes his articles are my like stats porn because I'm a stat nut and like Quentin's stuff is next level. Quentin brought up Faz scores quite a bit during the draft because all of Ryan Poles' draft picks, Joey, were players that were highly athletic. That's what the Faz scores indicate. It's athleticism, right? It's how far they jump, how fast they run, how big they are, etc. There was a statistic out there that Chase Claypool for Faz scores since 1987 had like the 5th best Faz score ever out of like almost 3,000 receivers that were graded. That's insanity. Like I think people forget, right? Because he's only had like 870 yards as his top his rookie year. He's been about that the last 2 years. He was competing for a lot of targets in Pittsburgh and in a fairly anemic Pittsburgh offense. Let's just call it what it was the last 2 years, except they got really hot in 2020 and then they pissed it away. But nonetheless,
they had a quarterback that couldn't even throw though on his way out the door,
Exactly. They brought in a freak athlete for Justin Fields, which A, fits what Ryan Poles likes to do, and we've seen already after one off season. But B, you give him a deep threat. You know how cool it's going to be seeing Justin Fields throw a ball 50 yards downfield and Chase Claypool's big 6'4" ass goes up and goes to get it? Oh,
that Joey. Leaping ability, man. That leaping ability combined with the speed. I know. I don't want to get like over the top, but it's like this is the day to get over the top. Everybody's been begging for weapons, begging, screaming. You didn't do enough to help Fields. You don't believe in Fields, blah, blah, blah. It's clear as day right now that they believe in Fields, and especially because of what we've seen over the last few weeks. You get this guy. I understand maybe it's a little bit of an overpay technically for what like – because he was a second-round pick, right? He was a second-round pick. Chase Claypool was. And I actually wanted the Bears to draft him in that draft. I wanted the Bears to draft him. And they went with Komet. Okay, I'm fine with that. I like Notre Dame. So that's why, like, I like Iowa. I'm that weirdo. We've talked about this. I like Iowa. I like Notre Dame. I like Wisconsin. I'm just all over the place. Shout out to B-Down, by the way, because he's a huge Notre Dame guy.
I was going to say, I cannot wait to hear the absolute just – as Beaton would put it in his own words, just absolute just knob slobbing that he's about to do that Chase Claypool's a Chicago Bear now. Like, I'm actually excited to listen to this week's preview show if I'm unable to be on it because Beaton's going to lose it. But anyway, continue, my friend.
No, and if you're listening, watching this right now, go send Beaton a message on whatever social media you can find him on Twitter or whatever, because he's having kind of a rough day today. So,
Agreed.
Absolutely. Like, we wish he was on this show, but like, he's having a rough day. Go show him some love. That's our guy, B-Don. We give him some shit. We give him a lot of shit. I do, especially like every day about bets and bullshit and, whatever. But give him some love because I think he needs it today more than ever. So, but you know what, man? Like, absolutely. Claypool, like this is a guy that I don't think has reached his full potential. And you can unlock him with a real quarterback. Like you said. Big Ben was like he was on his way out the door. He couldn't really throw. He was basically doing like the Peyton Manning when he was on his way out the door, just like short arm and stuff. Everything's short. Everything's Deontay Johnson, 5 yards from the scrimmage. Like, there was no deep ball there. And now you got a guy like Claypool who can run those end arounds and those sweeps way better than Equanimous St. Brown, another Notre Dame guy, then Dante Pettis, who we've already seen them have some success with those plays, those end arounds and those sweeps. You throw a guy out there like Chase Claypool, who not only is just used for that as like a gadget player, but can take the top off a defense. Yeah. Like Velus Jones, nobody's trusting him to make a catch right now. Like his hands are awful. He's almost dropping plays that are like screens, like screen passes. It's going off his hands and then he catches it. You catch that right away, you're gone. Like with his speed, Claypool, that's game over, man. If they can kind of get him in space and utilize that, I mean, the sky really is the limit. I hate to be like, I don't want to go too far and say that he's a number one wide receiver, But if you have him and Mooney together, that's a pretty damn good combo. Like now all of a sudden we went from the Bears have 0 weapons to what else happens with the rest of this depth, like going down the list. Like you kind of feel pretty good about what's around Fields right now, at least from the weapon standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you a new kind of feeling of confidence. And one of the interesting things too, Scott Crawford here in the comments. Also, thank you to everybody that's joining us in the comments. We certainly appreciate it. He says Claypool is the biggest and fastest wide receiver I can remember in a Bears uniform. I would make the argument he's probably the biggest and fastest we've seen since like Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. But that's still, it's been a decade since those guys were Chicago Bears. Like it's been a really fucking long time.
Like what I don't remember, like I'm having a hard time. Like I don't think Jeffrey was as fast. Was he like a
no?
burner?
I think Claypool raw speed is probably faster, not by a terrible amount. I think Jeffrey still ran in the 4.5s, but like 4.4 speed at 6'4" is insanity,
crazy.
Literal insanity. It's nuts.
You were talking about those scores, like the guys with the combine stuff. Like one of the guys that came as like a comparison to him was Megatron, dude. Like he's in that like elite tier of like wide receivers.
Don't they call him Mapletron? Isn't that a thing?
I think that was Canadian. Yeah.
Mapletron.
Yeah, that's right.
God, I can't wait to use Mapletron on a podcast. I thought it was only going to be Hawks that I could talk about Canadians on, but we got a Canadian on the Bears now. And it's all cool and stuff. But Joey, just really quick, I want to share a couple of tweets with you here because they kind of wrap into a couple of the points that you brought up in your discussion as well. And I think one that brings up something else that we can elaborate on. For those that don't know him, I absolutely love him. I hope we could get him on as a guest on Bears on Tap. But Ill Will on Twitter, he's at 79 Ill Will. Absolutely hysterical in Bears Twitter. He said today, and I kind of agree with this because I said this, like Bears, a lot of Bears, I wanted the Bears to take Claypool in 2020. I think a lot of Bears fans did. And he said here, he goes, y'all wanted the Bears to draft Claypool in the second round 2 years ago. Now y'all mad they traded a second for him. He goes, please go have some sex. Which I thought the ending was the best part. But here's another good one too. This is from Albert Breer, and this was at about 3:30 this afternoon. He says the Bears see new wide receiver Chase Claypool growing into a role like the one Alan Lazard played for ex-Packers passing game coordinator Luke Getsy in Green Bay. Inside-outside flexibility, can beat press from both spots, tenacious run blocker, and a real deep threat. That's also another thing to keep in mind that I didn't even think about, Joey, is the fact that look at every single receiver that Poles signed this offseason. What do they all do well? They're all great run blockers. All of them.
Equanimeous is like maybe the best in the league, like one of the best. And you add in this guy, it's gonna be nice.
And that's gonna help the run game. And honestly, again, I know a lot of people are pissed that the defense is probably gonna suck. I was talking to my cousin; he lives down in Atlanta. He's a diehard Bears fan, and he's like, "Our front seven's so bad; it's up for the worst in the league." I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." But like, dude, this whole season's about the Bears' offense. If the Bears' offense puts up 31 every game, and they lose like 42-31, I don't give a rat's ass because that's showing Justin Fields making progress, right? Like that's what they need to happen. And bringing in a guy like this absolutely does that. But Joey, I cannot wait to see what they do with him. I think that's the big kind of question mark, I guess, for lack of a better term, of how they're going to use him. Albert Breer's tweet kind of gives some of that insight. Like he's absolutely a guy you could move around, right? Darnell Mooney's one of those guys where you can put him in the slot and he can be very successful in the slot, but he's smaller. So he's an easier matchup for a safety or a nickel corner or something like that. You put a 6'4" dude in the slot, and especially if you catch the defense in a coverage where they don't have 5 DBs on the field,
it's over.
Oh my God.
Look at Devontae Adams, man. When he hits the slot, I'm not saying like he's like the biggest wide receiver, but like when Devontae Adams, they move him around like they used to do in Green Bay. Dude was a matchup nightmare when he played the Bears, and anybody really, it didn't matter. Like,
yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I'm gonna dial it back. We're all Madden heads here. If you listen to Bears on Tap, I'm sure you like to play Madden at least a little bit. In the newer Madden games, the cheat code of how you get your passing game going, especially on all Madden, is you put your best receiver in the slot. Because in every single passing offense, the slot route gets the best routes, and you're always going up against a third corner. Unless they, play their best corner in the slot too. So it's the same idea. You're getting those matchups. You're giving a guy who's just a freak athlete every opportunity in the world to make plays for you. And now, kind of you mentioned perfectly, Joey. He wasn't getting those opportunities to be an athletic freak in Pittsburgh because they didn't have the quarterback to do it. The Bears do. Justin Fields has the arm talent to sling this thing all over the field. That's going to be absolutely massive to potentially untapping Claypool's potential. And what happens if Claypool does truly become a number one receiver in Chicago? Are any of these Bears fans bitching about the second round pick today really going to give a fuck?
Absolutely not, because
No.
that's what you're hoping you can get out of a second round pick. So
Exactly.
or first round pick. Like literally, they could still draft another receiver in this upcoming draft in the first or second round, like a Quentin Johnston. Like, dude,
Sure.
I love that dude from TCU.
TCU, yeah.
Yeah, I love that dude. I actually really want him to be. But like to your point, Ron, I think Claypool, he's like probably best as an X receiver, but he can just do so many different things. That's like you don't really have to put a limit on it. Like I'm kind of like you. I'm interested to see what they come up with, what the play calls are going to be, and it just adds a new layer and a different wrinkle that Getsy can get creative with this offense. That we've seen it. Justin Fields, even in college, like that was the report on him. The deep ball is so beautiful, man. Like, and he's taking those shots. Like, yeah, he underthrew the guy. He underthrew, who was it now? I'm forgetting.
Equanimous.
Yeah, it was St. Brown. And he didn't fight back for the ball. We know that. Like, he didn't, he should have fought back for the ball a little bit better, but it was definitely underthrown. That's unlike Justin Fields. Like, we've seen him make so many throws this season where guys are dropping the ball. They're open. It's like a tight window. He makes a beautiful throw. It's off the hands. Then they juggle it. Then they try to catch it on the second one. It gets knocked away. You give the defender time to come there and knock it away, break it up. Like with Claypool, I'm not saying he's like legit a number one. He's not yet. Like he's not that type of receiver yet. But I think he is like a high end. He's a 2. Like he's definitely a 2 at this point with the potential of. Like, we're not quite sure if Mooney has the potential to be a 1, a legit 1 in this league. We think he can, but, like, he's definitely a very solid 2 and high-end 3 for Mooney. Like, a very solid 2, though. Claypool has that potential. Like, you put him in the right surroundings, Claypool is the guy that has that potential for sure.
Absolutely. And another tweet, too, here from Danny Parkins today. He says, I think the Bears paid a lot for Claypool because the market demanded it. And I absolutely agree. And I kind of alluded this in my little rant, Joey, while the tech issues were, delaying our first few minutes of the show here. But
I hate computers.
Technology is great when it works. But he continues, Parkins does, saying the free agency class is awful. That's exactly what I said. Why are you going to go overpay for a guy in free agency when you can go acquire a guy like Claypool now who still has another year under his rookie deal? He says, and you didn't get a high-end physical talent at receiver. You'd feel forced to use your first rounder on one. Now Poles has flexibility. Absolutely. Because really what I think you look at, if I'm Poles, if I'm putting my GM hat on here, all right, perfect case scenario, if it's a top 10 first-round pick, which it's likely going to be, let's just call a spade a spade, maybe toward the back half of the top 10, but nonetheless, top 10. If Peter Skoronski or one of these elite offensive tackles are there that you can
Northwestern.
You can plant at left tackle for the next decade. You do it to protect Justin. And I know there's a lot. I've seen a lot of people, and some of these are just in my friend, text groups and things like that I've seen. A lot of people arguing like, why would you draft Braxton Jones and move him from left tackle? He was a 5th round pick. You know how good he would be at left guard if they decided to move on from Whitehair because of his contract? Holy shit. I don't know what the dead cap money would look like for Whitehair, but if Poles wants to free up even more money, that's how you do it. Because Whitehair's in the late years of his contract. I think he's got 2 more years left on his contract.
I can see that. And nobody wanted to move Tevin Jenkins, and look how well that's worked out at right guard.
Look how good he's been at right guard. Yeah, he's been fantastic. That's the thing. In the NFL, you know how they always talk about, right, like really, really, like big safeties. They're like, oh, they can move the linebacker. It's okay. Or like a really slower D end, you could kick them inside. Offensive line's the same way, folks. I promise you. Take it from a former lineman myself. It's a hell of a lot easier to play offensive guard than it is to play offensive tackle. I played both. Trust me. Just take my word for it. You can easily, again, if they decided to part from Whitehair, you bump Jones in, right? to left guard. You get a guy, Skaronski is your first round pick, right? You get a better center because Lord knows Sam Mustipher's not the answer. Jenkins is your right guard. Maybe you go spend on a right tackle in free agency, a McGlinchey. There's a couple other guys out there that are really nice that would be good right tackles. Conklin is a free agent as well from Cleveland. A couple guys that could look really nice on that right side.
Would you even move, like, could you see Braxton Jones just sliding to right tackle?
Maybe. Sure. Maybe if you don't go spend money on the position. Maybe. Yeah, absolutely. Again, possibilities, right? I think he's athletic enough. He's shown it, especially in the run game. He's athletic enough to move around. So just imagine. Oh, here. Thank you, Scott. He says Whitehair is 2 more years and 12.4 in dead money. So, okay, maybe they don't move on from Whitehair. But even then, so maybe they do move Jones to right tackle. Let's just say they move him to right tackle. You spend on a center. Now, all of a sudden, that's a good-looking offensive line. Or maybe Jones's depth. Could you imagine how great that would be to have Braxton Jones as your 6th offensive lineman at a cheap dollar value? That gives you flexibility elsewhere. You're not paying Riley Reif $3 million before bonuses to just sit on the bench.
Yeah, and we've seen it this year, dude. Offensive line gets hurt every year. It doesn't matter. Like, especially, like, any team suffers injuries with the offensive line, and we're seeing it this year with multiple guys suffering injuries that, like, oh, shit, Sam Mustipher didn't get strapped to the rocket ship yet. He's back in there.
Because you need offensive line depth. It's the position that if the deeper you are, the better off you are. And then but if you do that with your first round pick, right? If you address offensive line with your first round pick and you're the Chicago Bears and you're Ryan Poles, your second round pick can be used on a receiver. You can go get a Johnston, like you said, from TCU. You go get a guy because you don't need that big physical receiver anymore. You just need a guy. Go get a gamer. Go get a guy that looks really good as a 2 or a 3 as a rookie. I would feel really good about that group with Claypool and Mooney going into next year. Maybe you bring in another guy as depth that can come off the bench in the case of injuries. I think what they expect
Myers or something, possession receiver or something.
Exactly. Like I think worst case scenario, right? Like I think, you can even sign what like would have been a Byron Pringle, right? Like a guy to be a depth player, because again, the NFL is more spread out than it ever has been in offensively too, right? So you see a lot more 4th receivers actually getting on the field than you ever have before.
And
I think
Harry,
that's the best case for their 1 and 2. You know what I mean?
Dude, and N'Keal Harry, he's actually looked pretty solid. Like,
absolutely.
I know we're not expecting much from him moving forward, but like that was a guy that everybody was like, oh, I think I mentioned this actually on a previous show, but like everybody's talking about, oh, is it N'Keal Harry or is it Jacoby Myers for fantasy? Which Patriots wide receiver should I take? Who's going to be the number 1? And everyone was picking Harry, and which never really made that much sense to me. But he's got some intangibles, and he's got some traits to him, and he's looked solid so far. So
yeah, and he's big. He's big. Yeah. He's and he's a guy that can go deep. So again, you surround. I'm happy if N'Keal Harry's a 5th wide receiver on the Chicago Bears. Like that is not an issue at all, in my opinion, going forward. So, and just really quick, one more comment here, 2 more comments actually. I am Scott. Hey, buddy, how are you? Joins us in our 4 Feathers chat all the time. He's the man. He says, I scored Braxton pre-draft. He's strictly a left tackle in my opinion, but he's agreed that if score is available at the pick, that's your guy. So yeah, again, worst case scenario, Jones is your 6th offensive lineman. That's not a bad thing by any stretch of imagination. And then also mentioned from Scott here, Leatherwood's still in the mix too. They are starting to assemble some depth on the offensive line. It just sucks that 3 of your starters were hurt against Dallas because Borum didn't play either. Yeah. But like they have the ability. They have guys there that they can turn to.
I mean, we just can't, like, moving into next season, that has to be, if you get really good offensive line play, it's basically just like the defense. You get really good defensive line play, very vital in this particular defense. But
games are won in the trenches, my friend.
It's always in the trenches. But if you cannot go into next season, even with better weapons, building on that, you got Claypool. They didn't move Montgomery, which I was happy about because I feel like a cheap 2-year deal with Montgomery, I don't think he's going to get top end dollar, like even as far as running backs go. Yeah, maybe like that 1-2 punch, him and Herbert, man. I fucking love that. Like, there's nothing to complain about that. Let's not do the comparisons. I don't like. To me, it's like, why do the comparisons when you just got both? Like, just with him and Khalil Herbert, like 1-2, they're so different. Like,
and to note too, for those that are like, you need an elite running back. No, the fuck you don't. Not in today's NFL. Like, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. When's the last time they had an elite running back on their roster?
That you can't name it.
They've won Super Bowls with guys that were literally third string on the depth chart in Matt Nagy's last season. Like, you in today's NFL, if you have a well-balanced running back, he doesn't need to be the creme de la creme of running backs. If you have Monty and Herbert in place, they've shown they can be a good 1-2 punch, and you can ride the hot hand like Eberflus and company have been doing. Now, all of a sudden, again, just this Claypool deal, shows that the Bears are investing in Justin Fields, which we all love to see. Build around JF1, as my little name descriptor here says on the live stream. And 2, again, it gives you additional flexibility going into the season because now you've acquired a legitimate receiver. Again, free agency class is hot horse shit for wide receivers this year. Just calling
That's
it
a big part of it. That's a big part of, like, people say that the value or like they overspent. That's big. That played into it a lot. The free agent market coming up.
Well, and Joey, one of the things I also noted, a tweet that I saw earlier from Mr. I believe it's Todd Silverstein, Todd Silverstein, I think it's Todd, but he said, fun fact, the Green Bay Packers also offered a 2nd-round pick for Claypool, but the Pittsburgh Steelers believed the Bears pick was going to be higher, so they took the Bears pick. That's why the Bears gave up their own 2nd versus that Ravens pick, right?
Yeah, and that pissed me off initially because I'm like, fuck.
Pissed a lot of people off initially, and then they saw that report and went, ooh, that literally kept the Packers from getting them, and it pissed off Green Bay fans. Oh, that's even better. It's worth the overpayment just for the petty satisfaction of knowing he didn't go to the Packers instead of the Bears.
You got to pay to play, baby. You got to pay to play.
Got to pay to play. That's a really good way to put it, my friend. But, dude, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and be like, the Bears are winning the Super Bowl now. No, I'm not saying that. But it's a positive step in the right direction. It's a positive step to build around Justin Fields. To me, what this move does, because I saw something Colin Cowherd, our buddy, and if you watch the Roquan show, Buzz and Juice did a great job hijacking Bears on Tap for a night.
Yeah.
But Buzz wrote a great article today about comments that Colin Cowherd made earlier on the Claypool trade. And he said, like this front office didn't draft Justin Fields, so they want to accelerate the process of, seeing what they got. And I'm like, I don't think that's the case. You don't invest a 2nd-round pick in a receiver if you're not trying to build around your quarterback. He did go on to say, like, the winds are changing in Chicago and they're actually building a legit offense. And so he did still compliment the Bears. I just thought the way he phrased the argument was odd because, again, this team is building around JF1. They're building for the future. You're giving him an athletic freak who's still young. Claypool's 24 years old, folks. Stop freaking the fuck out that they gave up a 2nd.
Yeah, he's Bayless's age, basically.
Yeah. Bayless is older than him. That's how crazy it is. I love what they did with this trade for what it is, right? Sure, you didn't get, and here's the thing, Joey. Again, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I'm saying it's a possibility, kind of what we iterated earlier, right? There's no guarantee that Claypool becomes an elite receiver. But look at the packages that teams like the Eagles and the Bills gave up to go get like Diggs and Brown. Could you imagine because if you completely untap Claypool's potential with the Chicago Bears, because he was maybe a little hamstringed with the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last 2 years.
Keep his head on straight too. That's part of it,
Like, holy shit, dude. What happens if he becomes that like kind of Brown, maybe not Diggs echelon, but like Brown, DJ Moore echelon? Like, what if he becomes that? Now all of a sudden, all you had to give up was a 2nd-round pick to go get him.
That's just as good. Like, that's your 1st-round investment. Like, exactly. That's a 1st-round investment that you got in the 2nd round. When honestly, I felt like Claypool lasted a little bit too long, like in the draft when he was taken. So
he fell fast.
The only thing is like it's just at such a premium now. The weapons, like that's why. When you talk about like the Packers giving up what they gave up or like what they were willing to give up and what it sounds like anyways, which we don't know how much of that is like them just playing into, well, I knew the Bears were going after somebody because the Packers didn't end up doing anything anyways. So like, who really knows what's going on over there? They're going to end up tearing that entire thing down pretty soon. I don't know. They're in for a world, like they're heading downhill fast. That train is not stopping anytime soon. It doesn't seem like so. And I cannot wait for it. loving what I'm seeing right now. And it's not like I'm, whatever. Packers fans, we all have friends that are Packers fans. I'm not talking shit to you. It's like, it's just, you have dominated us for so freaking long that I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. And it's like, it's so good to see and refreshing. But anyways, back to the Bears side of things. It's worth it, man. It's worth the risk. The risk is worth the reward in this case, because honestly, dude, like Claypool could be that guy that puts this. You add one more offensive weapon, just a wide receiver, potentially a tight end too. Like I like Kmet, but like you could have a second tight end there to really, really boost things up. Do a little bit more like, I don't know, 21 or 12 personnel, stuff like that, and have somebody out, splitting out wide a little bit more of a receiving threat. Kmet's great, man. Kmet's great in the run game. He's great just blocking in general. So you get another receiving option, which Kmet has proven, man. He got a touchdown the other day. He's starting to prove when you throw him the ball, he can make plays out there too. It's just now you just got to find a way to use him the right way, which Matt Nagy never did for the life of him. And he can be a red zone threat too. But you add one more legit weapon outside or inside, whatever you want to do, this thing could really take off. And like I was saying before with the line play, I really think that has to be not the entire focus. You got to build up the defense a little bit too. If you want to be legit next season,
of course,
in some capacity, you got to build up the defense for sure. But offensive line becomes vital at this point. You figured out you got a right guard. Braxton Jones could probably stay at left tackle. I don't really necessarily agree with that comment earlier, and it's not like calling him out or anything and saying he's wrong, but I don't think he has to stay at left tackle just because that's where he has been. I think coaching you can move guys around a little bit and you can play them up in certain areas. Maybe a left guard.
For what it's worth, as an offensive lineman, I played all 5 spots on the line in my college career. So it's doable. Like, guys can do it. A lot of it's honestly mental. If we're being entirely honest, a lot of it's mental. It's not physical. A lot of it's mental. So
but you gotta know assignments. Like Ron, you gotta know your assignments and know what you're supposed to do in each spot. Like it's just that, and then it comes down to motor. Like Tevin Jenkins has got that freaking motor where it's like got that dog in him, dude. You cannot. I just love watching his highlight reels and just like just watching the tape afterwards is like, it's disgusting the way he attacks people and destroys them, lifts them out of their chair and just sets them down, puts them in a blender. I honestly though, it's like, I think that you build up this line, man. Justin Fields can't be getting sacked 3-4 times a game. He can't be having to bail you out and run for 80 yards a game. He can do that. You got to design some of those plays, but he shouldn't have to do that. Like when it's 3rd and 12 and he's getting backed up to like 10 yards, almost a loss, looks like he's going to get sacked. He works out of it and ends up running for 25, 30 yards. Like that just cannot happen all the time. Like it's just not sustainable. It's just not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am Scott said it here. He said Jenkins knocked the wind out of Judon, and he ain't wrong, dude. Jenkins
he did. Oh fuck, dude, that play is insane.
Just to build on what you said here, Joe, I'm going to use 2 of Scott Crawford's comments here, and I think we can start to break this thing down for the night. Obviously, there will be a preview show. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or Thursday from us here at Bears on Tap, previewing this weekend's game against who did they got? Oh, the Miami Dolphins. That's right. Tyreek Hill and company come to town. It'll be at Soldier Field, but as Scott says here, he says, by trading for Claypool, the Bears now have options to draft the best player on the board or trade back with the first pick. Very true. Plus the money to buy whatever they want. And I think to your point, Joey, the buying whatever they want comes more, I think, on the defensive side of the ball. You can go get a legitimate, I think they like Justin Jones as the 3 technique, truly, in this defense. But you can go get another pass rusher in free agency, like a unique Ngakoue if you want to spend the money there. You can go get an off-ball linebacker for a decent value to be a stopgap until you can draft some guy to maybe bump Morrow over. Something, too, that we didn't even talk about. Jack Sanborn's going to probably get more of an opportunity now that Roquan Smith is gone, too. So
I'm looking forward to that.
We're gonna see what they have. Like, what happens if Jack Sanborn becomes a competent off-ball linebacker? I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro, but if he's competent, that's another position you have depth at.
He was legit in college, man. He looked great in the preseason, too. I mean,
absolutely. So, who's to say? But I think they have their secondary pretty much figured out, too. Like, the Bears honestly should keep some of that cap space money to inevitably at some point in time, they got a few years till they got to worry about this, but pay Justin Fields, pay Jalen Johnson. Nobody talks about Jalen because you never see him on the fucking broadcast.
Nobody throws at him, dude.
Nobody throws at him because they know better. They know
the
better.
Numbers are ridiculous when they do throw at him. They're ridiculously
stupid.
Good.
Stupid. Yeah, he's a legit number one corner. So really, to me, what the Bears said, hey, we're not going to pay Roquan. We're going to pay a guy like Jalen in 2 years, right? Because he's your elite corner. In today's NFL, you need an elite corner. But now they have the money to buy some of those other positions, offensive line, defensive line, maybe a stopgap linebacker. Then you draft other positions. Poles has shown he gets good value in late picks, right? Like, we haven't necessarily seen it entirely from this current class, but like Braxton Jones has been starting as a 5th round pick and has looked okay at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got both of his 2nd round picks look good. I mean, Gordon struggled a little bit. Jaquan Brisker looks like the next best thing since sliced bread at safety, though.
Even Kyler, man, he's turned it around a little bit though too. I mean, last few weeks, I know the Dallas game was like, who do you put all the blame on? Because I feel like the coverages, they were figuring that out. Like Vildor was getting cooked more than anything.
Right. So, you know, again, I think that's the biggest thing with this trade, right? It's like, yes, you lose a 2nd that you effectively acquired in the Roquan deal, but it gives you a little more flexibility now with off-season plan. And the other comment here, he says, Packers get the biggest L for the trade deadline. Bears get Claypool. Yeah. And the Vikings getting Hawkinson was a big move too. You know, adding some more talent to their offense too. So 2 offenses in the division got better. One got worse, I guess, technically in Detroit. And the other one just didn't do anything at all. So they're just going to stand pat.
Miami made a big move today too. I forget what their move was. Bradley Chubb. Yeah, dude, we got to face him.
Yep, he'll be with the Dolphins inevitably this week. Yeah, that'll be a big test for Jones, and hopefully Borum's healthy enough to play this weekend. But that'll be a big one because Chubb, they moved a 1st, a 4th, and Chase Edmonds for him. So that was a big trade going back to Denver.
Going for it, man.
Yeah, hey. You might as well. I mean, Miami's got a chance. Their team looks good. They're 5-3. And I mean, yeah, obviously the Bills are going to win that division, but a wild card spot's absolutely in play, I think, for the Dolphins. So certainly something to keep an eye on. And the Bears are their next obstacle that they got to go across. And hopefully we get Chase Claypool for this week. I know the Steelers are on bye, so I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know if he gets the bye week or if he reports right away. I don't know how any of that works. He still has to pass a physical. So, like, if he does play on Sunday, it might not be a ton. Probably don't see him like
the playbook. Honestly, learning the playbook will probably be even the hardest part, even if he's like active. You know, I don't know how many plays he'll have.
Right. So maybe he's only got 20% of snaps or something for game 1, but hopefully by game 2, because they play the Lions and that dog shit defense, he can go off and have a good day, and JF1 and him can throw deep bombs, and we can all laugh and celebrate as the Bears kick the shit out of the Lions. So it'll be interesting to see, my friend, but I want to turn it back over to you here really quick for final thoughts. Chase Claypool, former Golden Domer, is now a Chicago Bear.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Yesterday, I think mood was kind of down just a little bit, just because like how much Roquan meant to the Bears, just the team, like how much he did for this team. And like, I was listening to Ryan Poles earlier today, and like, you know, he talked about how they just couldn't come to agreement. You know what I mean? Like that happens, you know, and Roquan was his own agent. He didn't do himself any favors, like absolutely not, by not having somebody handle that side for him. And, you know, ultimately they decided to go this direction. And like, I'm totally okay with them building up this offense right now and tearing it down to the studs. I don't necessarily think that they got the best value for all of these players, like that they, in the timing of the trades, like
sure,
kind of wasn't like it's Robert Quinn had the most value in the offseason, for example.
1,000%.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there was stuff that he didn't necessarily get 100% right. So I'm not like ready to be like, well, Ryan Poles, you're doing everything perfect. Like, but at the same time, committing to Justin Fields is a big deal, right? It is a huge deal, especially for a fan base that has never had a legit quarterback. Never. I don't care what name you fucking throw at us. We have never had a legit quarterback. Yes, Cutler was good. Yes, Kramer was good. Yeah, Jim McMahon was okay. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Yeah, even then. It's just, it's horrible, dude. It's horrible. So, like, the fact that we feel this good about this situation right now, and it remains to be seen if, like, everything gets figured out, because usually when one side of the ball gets really good, we saw it with the Mark Trestman and Mel Tucker years. Dude, the defense was absolutely horrible. Nothing against Mel Tucker, but absolutely dog shit for a little bit there.
Yeah, they were
And
like 31st out of 32. It was bad.
sacrificed a lot, man. Sacrificed a lot on defense. And, injuries play into that, whatever. But honestly, I'd love to see him get like a Jack Campbell from Iowa. Not because he's just an Iowa guy, but I don't know where he's going in the draft. But, there's things that you can do. Like you said, Ron, you can definitely, you probably want to draft weapons and whatever. And I do too. Weapons in line and edge rushers and all that.
I want big hogs. That's what I want. I like big hogs. Because think about it.
You can get your best lineman from the draft too.
Absolutely. And look at just really quick, like look at those Dallas offensive lines in those years where they were like the top running offense in the NFL. They were elite. You had like 3 all-pros on that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You had over the last handful of years, you had Tyron Smith, you had Lael Collins, you had Zach Martin.
Man. On the cheap, you can go out and buy whatever you need then at that
point.
Big
and who knows? Like, I think they like what they have in Jenkins at right guard. I think Borum is at least a league average right tackle, and that's not a bad thing. Braxton Jones, I think, is at least a league average overall left tackle. I think he's an elite run blocker. Maybe not elite, really good at least. He needs to work on his pass blocking, but like a healthy Whitehair is still an incredible left guard. And he's still young enough.
I'm not gonna lie, Borum scares the fuck out of me. I'm not gonna lie.
No, and that's fair.
I know he's still learning. He hasn't played much either. Still, like this is he's basically a rookie too.
Right.
I don't know. He can get better. Like, there's no reason why he can't get better. But I'm with you. I want to get some linemen. Back.
Protect JF1, baby. The way you prolong JF1's career in Chicago and make him the greatest Bears quarterback ever is by him being healthy and on the field. And how do you do that? You protect him with some big hogs up front. Joey, my quick just last thought here is a pair of Golden Domers are reunited. Cole Kmet and Chase Claypool are back together. I know that's been floating around all over social media today. In addition, I'm also intrigued to see what number he wears because obviously 11 is taken by Darnell Mooney. So
curious. 83 floated out there.
Well, 83 was his college number, so I could see him taking that back. Again, just a random thought to end the show that I'm intrigued by. So it'll certainly be interesting to see. But ladies and gentlemen, we thank everybody for joining Joey and I on this show today. This was a fun one to talk about. Bears actually going out and getting a guy rather than just trading everybody. Because that's
nice episode of Cubs on Tap here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it feels good. Hey, a little Cubbies on Tap coming this week. Joey's back on the mic with some golf bets this week. Bulls on Tap's going to be running a little bit later this evening. The Sox guys ran today. On Tap's starting to fuel back up, ladies and gentlemen. We took a little bit of a break on some shows outside of pretty much Bears, Hawks, and Bulls there. Baseball's coming back because the World Series is chucking along. There was some World Series conversation in the comments today as well. So that's always a fun to see in addition. But nonetheless, encourage everybody to check out OnTapSportsNet.com as Bears on Tap is the official Bears podcast of OnTapSportsNet.com. At OnTapSportsNet on social media, on www.OnTapSportsNet.com, all over the interwebs. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks. Again, we do it all here. Cubs, White Sox, at Cubbies on Tap, at Sox on Tap, at Bulls on Tap, at Bears on Tap, at Four Feathers Pod. You know where to find us. Go like it all. We got everything covered for you here. Talking Chase Claypool today. Who knows what we're talking tomorrow? A lot of crazy shit can happen in the next 24 hours, but that's the beauty of sports and the news world and things roll. Again, I am at Luce on Tap. Joey's at Joey Knows Nothing. Follow all of our other contributors at Beat on 300, at Butkus Stats. Give Buzz and Juice a love too as well at Buzz on Tap and at Juice on Tap, as I'm sure we'll see them on the microphones again before this season is over. Joey, this was a blast. Chase Claypool's a Chicago Bear. It's been a good time, my man. I appreciate you jumping on with me. And like we said, Bears on Tap will be back this week for a little Miami Dolphins preview. Not sure who's going to be on that show yet, but we can promise you there is a Bears show in your future. Thank you, everybody in the comments joining us. If you want to join us in the comments, be sure to follow along on either YouTube or Facebook. You can like us on Facebook at On Tap Sports and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Hit that little bell so you always know when we go live. You can join us in the comments. As all of our great friends like Jeremiah, I am Scott Crawford, even my buddy Eric jumped in the comments earlier, and join the conversation with us because hopefully we're talking about a lot more cool and tough things here for the Bears. Joey, what do you say we got here? The only way we know how here at Bears on Tap?
Bear down.
Bear down and fuck the Packers.